I'm going to label this as part 2. This is going to be the second try for using JB Weld as a filler for a couple of imperfections. I had already gone through this bumperette here and used a little bit of JB Weld in addition to trying out some of the primer powder. But check out part 1 if you're interested in that. But again, so this one I'm just going to go through the steps of going through and sandblasting and taking a look at some of these rust pock marks here and trying to fill these up with some JB Weld and then powder coating it and just seeing how well it came out. Results are okay, but I'll just kind of walk through and give you my assessment of what I found. Okay, here's the second bumperette. What I'm going to do is I just wanted to show a kind of see that area there. I'll get outside of the light. I'm gonna go ahead and JB Weld cover this section right there. I think I'm going to do a little bit here. I got a little spot there, and I think a couple of these right here. There's lots of areas here, but I'm just going to hit the main. I don't think I'm going to try to get this thing perfect. I don't know. Maybe I'll try over here a little bit too. This little area right in here. Just to see. But yeah, there's those little pock marks. We're going to see how well JB Weld covers that. They're just really small holes. So I've been working on this for, it probably took about 40 minutes, somewhere in there. I started with this sander thingy that I have, multi-tool with, what was it, like 120 and 100 and 120 grit a little bit, just to knock down the high edges of the JB Weld. I think it came out pretty well. Then I hit it with just some regular, just by hand with some regular. I had some 150, and then I finished it off with 220, a real light 220. So you can kind of see, let me see, where did I get all the, so you can kind of see the JB Weld areas here. I'm not obviously not going for a super fine, I mean, I'm going to get a little bit of bubbles there, just like up here. There was a little bit in the other one that I did, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I wanted to hit kind of the main areas and just see how good this works. That was kind of the worst area right in the middle. I could still feel a little something in there, but I actually think that's the metal that's higher. I might have sanded down just to try to get it super flat, but it should reduce it quite a bit. Again, up here a little bit. I just want to pay attention a little bit to where the JB Weld is, because I'm not sure how much I'm going to be able to tell once I get done with this. So here's the bottom, here's the top of the bumperette, and I got a little bit over here, some bad shadows. But so what I'm going to do at this point is I basically sanded off all the sheen, that nice profile that you want for powder coating. So I'm going to toss it in the sandblasting cabinet, and I'm going to do around the areas. I'm going to try to be real careful not to hit the JB Weld just from really far away, just to kind of help with that profile a little bit, to the extent that it helps. Okay, a quick shot after it just came out of the sandblaster. Just all those spots right there. You can kind of see it has that dull finish now. It's kind of what I was going for. But again, those spots, it's not perfect. There's some little pinholes in there. I'm gonna try to hang this up so that it hangs like this first, and then turn it over if I can get it done, get that turned over before, so that I can just kind of spray down on this and make sure everything's getting covered really well. Get a light on it, then flip it over. The way I had that hanging, I had it hanging upside down. It was fine. I just got underneath it and it hit this perfectly fine. I have these at the bottom because I'm going to flip this over once I get done shooting the top, because I got to get that side of it there. And then I want to make sure that I really hit this top part. I want to see how well it coats. I'll go ahead and blow it off if it doesn't go on there right, but I'm gonna do my best to get a pretty heavy coat to make sure that it's all kind of in there, that it's sticking to the JB Weld. I'm still surprised that it stuck last time, but we're going to see what happens this time. This is kind of giving it a second shot. We'll see what happens. All right, so far so good. I can't see any aspect of the JB Weld right now. I'm going to give it a little bit more, and then I'm going to flip it around. All right, there it is. It's all done. Get a little light on there. I think I hit everything pretty well. Closed it down. And I'm going to get those little pock marks everywhere, but they're really, really tiny. I'm not too worried about it. All right, it's going in the oven. Ooh, it just fits. So here it is. This is the big reveal. So I pulled it out of the oven. It was actually last night, so this is the next day. Generally speaking, it was really good. The JB Weld did a pretty good job of covering and not being able to see it. You know, when I showed it before it went into the oven, it was pretty well, you couldn't see. The powder covered it very evenly, but now that it's baked, it's not quite as good as I was hoping. So again, this is a semi-gloss, and I think that is really important here. I've been thinking about this. That is super important because what's happened here essentially is that I think you can get a pretty good look at it as trying to get it reflecting the light. It's pretty flat. Again, this had, you know, I could feel that a little bit, so I didn't sand this down as much as I should have. I probably should have recoated it again and spent a little bit more time sanding it, but this is certainly a lot better than it was. Again, trying to get a good angle on that because like the tone here really kind of matters. Again, this is semi-gloss, so you can kind of see this is where, again, yeah, so you can kind of see it's a little bit shinier. It looks a little darker, but it's actually just, I think it's just a little bit of an extra sheen that's on there. So maybe if you were using a gloss, that it might blend in a lot better. There's a little spot right there. Again, you can just kind of see that little spot. It's funny because you really just have to, I think if it were on the Jeep, sitting outside, whatever, I'm not sure you'd be able to really see these marks. And it took the powder really well, just when you bake it. Again, this is semi-gloss. It's a little bit different sheen, so I'm not quite sure. Like I said, I think I think it's pretty good. So my question right now is then what do I do with it? So I've been thinking about this, and you know, I could try to do a second coat on this, but I feel like I'd be doing more harm than good. Okay, so what can I do to this? Maybe I can buff it so it's the same sheen. So I actually have a couple of different, you know, I first tried, I thought maybe some plastic polish. I rubbed that on there. That actually made it a little bit shinier. So this does a really good job of shining up powder coating. And I actually wanted it to be a little duller. Then I tried just some turtle wax. Again, this is just stuff I have around. I tried some of the polishing compound, and this also made it a little bit shinier. Just put it on a little damp rag and just kind of, you know, circular, rubbed it around there a little bit. And I did it over in this area here. And then I thought, okay, still it's too shiny. Maybe I should try some rubbing compound, which is a little bit coarser. And this seemed to do even a little bit better, but I could still see the area where I was. So then I moved over, and this is, you know, a steel wool. And I put actually a little bit, and sometimes you do grease on it or a little bit of WD-40. I just used a little bit of soapy water because I didn't care if it was going to rust. And I did kind of a slight, just rubbing around a little bit in this area, and it actually got it to a really nice, it evened it out. You can still see the spot, but this isn't due to the sheen. Again, I'm trying to get the angle of the coloring just right so that you can see it. But there was a couple things here, areas there where the JB Weld was, here and here, and a little bit in there, and you can't even see it now. I'm having a hard time. I don't know if it's coming out on the camera very well, but I can't really see it there. So I thought that did a really nice job of buffing it out. So I'm actually going to try doing that little buffing with the steel wool and a couple of these other areas. Again, up here, you can kind of see this area up here, and try to even all this out. If you had a big flat surface, again, this is old, it's got pocks that I knew that would come out, but I was trying to hit some of the main holes and just try to make it a little bit less noticeable. If you had a big flat surface, it may not have done as well, but I'm actually pretty happy that, the JB Weld part was very sandable. Again, I waited a couple of days for it to dry. And I don't know whether there's a combination of these marks here of the heat, but the heat, it didn't really distort it a lot. So it came up to the heat. I think just the flow around it when it's heated just didn't work quite as well. So this is where I netted out here. This is the new one. And like I said, I went over with just a tiny bit of soap and water, extra fine steel wool. I gave it a light little brushing over to try to smooth out some of that sheen, some of that discoloration. It looked a little dull compared to the first one that I had done up here. Actually, you can see in part one that I did this one up here with that test of the little bit of JB Weld down there. It's kind of hard to see that sheen here, but now that I've seen it on the main part of this one here, I can kind of see it's a little bit shinier. It didn't come out. So that's, again, from part one. There'll be a link at the bottom to that one. And this is part two. So this one here, again, it was a little duller when I used the steel wool. So I actually then just hit it with a little bit of polishing compound, again, with a damp rag, and just kind of did little circles. And that brightened it up a little bit here. So again, I'm pretty happy with how it came out. Much better than some of the big old divots. If you look back, I might be able to do a side-by-side comparison. I'll pull some images and take a look at what it looked like before and versus now. I guess not perfect by a long shot, but it's much better than it was. Kind of see that sheen isn't quite coming through. You can still see the pieces, the parts where I did it, the JB Weld, but again, those were some pretty deep marks. Again, there was up here, got my handprints on it, but there. So again, you can still see it a tiny bit, but it's going to be sitting like this in the back of the bumper. You're not going to be able to see any of those marks on there. So, and certainly better than some of the big divots that were there. So again, give it like a 7.5. This JB Weld right here, the 6-minute steel reinforced epoxy version. I let it dry for a couple of days. Anyway, so, I would sort of recommend this. Again, it depends on your situation. So again, it was kind of an interesting test. I'm happy with how it turned out. And yeah, I would probably do it again depending on what part I had. Here's a quick before and after shot of the two side by side, so you can kind of see it a little bit better and how well it filled in. So if this was helpful at all, go ahead and like and subscribe. I'm going to do some more videos on powder coating, some different things. Again, this is my whole DIY at home setup, and also working on the Jeep.